A brand new episode of In the Vault. I'm Jacob Netchport, joined here by Mr. Aranio and Colton. Mr. Aranio, how you doing?
Doing great. Ready to talk baseball.
Colton, how are you?
Doing just fine.
All right, so spring training
That was
underway.
convincing.
Spring training underway, a very exciting time for us baseball fans. So, Colton, me and you, Yankee fans, Mr. Aranio, Red Sox fans. So, I think as Yankee fans, we're pretty excited with what we've seen so far.
100%. I mean, we just saw a really high-scoring game from the Yanks against, I believe, the Tigers. So
Yeah,
looking good so
22 to
far.
10.
Yep.
Thought football season was over, but here we are having a score like that. We saw Spencer Jones, one of the top prospects.
Who?
Spencer Jones, top prospect. He's going to terrorize the Red Sox in a couple of years. 470-foot home run in his first at-bat. I mean, the
So
Yankees
you're
look
righty
great.
or lefty?
Was he a lefty, I believe?
I think so.
He's a lefty. So, I mean, he's exciting to see. And Colton, I mean, if you just want to talk about it a little bit more, what we've seen with the Yankee spring training so far.
I mean, I think it's gonna be exciting. I mean, it's only spring training, so like you're still gonna get like adjusted because like and it's not the same. We're not even in the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, so I'm expecting probably a little bit more heading into the actual season, and I'm excited to see what Juan Soto's gonna be doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a great start to spring training as well. And I think we all agree there's always that one team that looks really good in spring training and then comes out in the season and is terrible. So that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit with this team. But do we think they're still a piece away? I mean, I think there's a couple guys still out there that they could go get. But I think so far with spring training, we should be pretty happy with what we see.
I mean, 100%. I don't think we really are missing a piece. I think we have all the pieces. Maybe we could be looking at like maybe more relievers, or because I think the rotation's looking pretty solid. But I would look out for relievers or closers.
All right, and then Mr. Arenio, your Red Sox, how have they looked? I really haven't been keeping up with them in spring training. Anything good?
Well, I mean, the game's just started, so they played the Orioles on Saturday. They lost. I put it on. I'll admit, you get excited when the season starts. So pitchers and catchers started reporting a little less than 2 weeks ago. It's almost 2 weeks ago. And then the game started last week. You had a game Thursday. You had games throughout the weekend. So it's exciting. I'm excited that baseball's back. Makes you look forward to spring and warmer weather and summer. So it's a good time of year. But I don't make a big deal about spring training games. I mean, I had it on Saturday. It's tough to focus on it. Like it's like, oh, it's nice, baseball's there, but it's on in the background. And then yesterday I put it on for a little bit. They were playing the Twins. They were up big. They gave a lead up. They took the lead. So I mean, really, what does it matter?
I think it's exciting to watch when your like best players are playing, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through spring training, you just get these random.
Devers hit a 3-run homer yesterday. So I was like, all right, great, he hit a home run, but it's just tough to get excited about anything related to spring training games. In terms of evaluating it, like I don't really evaluate anything with spring training games, but it is exciting to have it back, and baseball's back, and we'll have baseball games for about the next 8 months. So that's good news. With the Red Sox, it's more about off the field and what they didn't do in the offseason. So, I mean, they're frustrating, but it's not unexpected. So you're just used to the way they're doing things now. I mean, it is frustrating, and I don't agree with it, and John Henry's just not invested in the team. It's so clear. Like, I don't know how you can make an argument that he is. You know, they got like a $200 million payroll, but their payroll is like 14th in baseball, and they're well under the luxury tax threshold. So they could be spending a lot more money, but he has other priorities. So it's tough when the owner is not fully invested. You can't get rid of the owner, and it seems like it's one guy, the owner, who is just standing in the way of them being a competitive team. Like, I don't think they're going to be a horrible team. I think their roster is mid. You know, whether it's slightly above average or slightly below average. I lean towards it being slightly below average, but I look at them as like this year's going to be the same story as the last 2 years. They won 78 games each of the last 2 years, so I expect them to pretty much be that again. I mean, how are they going to finish in anything but last in the AL East? I mean, who are they beating out in the division? So even if they, even if they were a pretty good team, the 4 of the teams in the division are just better than them. So it's a frustrating situation. Like, they're all about the future, but I think that's because the owner doesn't want to spend money, because he's spending money on all these other things that he's invested in with the Fenway Sports Group. Yeah. So it's a frustrating situation. I mean, but if they just signed Jordan Montgomery, I wouldn't think they'd be a very good team, like they'd be a better team. And if they had him, I'd say, okay, they have an outside chance to compete for the third wild card. But where they're at right now, I don't see how they have any chance of competing for a postseason spot. But I mean, again, it just goes to show that they're not a horrible team. They're an okay roster. Yeah. There's some pieces there. There are some young pieces.
They're also in a very tough division.
The division doesn't help. Like if they were in the AL Central,
there's a chance they could.
Maybe they could compete for the division. Yeah. But the reality is they're in the AL East. So they play in that what if, that hypothetical doesn't do any good. That the reality is they're in a division with 4 teams that are all better than them. I mean, the Orioles are significantly better. The Yankees are significantly better. The Blue Jays are significantly more talented. And then the Rays just do their thing. So they're better too. So, yeah, just frustrating is the word. And it's a very frustrated fan base. And, they're just in that baseball purgatory right now.
I mean, and for me and Colton's side of things, it feels like Hal Steinbrenner's finally woken up and decided to be invested in the team, unlike John Henry. And it's just, you see the moves that he made this season, or this offseason with trading for Soto.
Yeah.
Trading for Stroman, or signing Stroman, excuse me. Bringing in a couple of these other pieces. And then now we see them still in talks with guys like Blake Snell. I mean, he's still a big-name guy that they could go out and get.
Well, I wonder how much has it been Hal Steinbrenner not invested?
Yeah.
And how much has it been Brian Cashman's philosophy?
This too, yeah.
Or with the Red Sox, it's philosophy too. I mean, Craig Breslow is a heavy analytics guy, Chaim Bloom before him. So there's a philosophy there, but it's very clear that it's the owner that doesn't want to pony up with spending, where Hal Steinbrenner has done that with the Yankees, and they're open to spending more money. So I don't know. Maybe he has changed. He's like, okay, last year was not good. I mean, 82-80, and haven't been to the World Series in a long time. So, at least it shows something there that he's willing to invest in the team, and their payroll is up there now. I mean, they're near $300 million, right?
Yeah, they're not
somewhere
done.
in that range.
They're not done yet. I mean, there's still Judge is talking about it all the time as the captain, that there's still a move to be made. Not knowing what that is, but there's still definitely a move for them to make. And there's been There's been talks about Snell. There's been talks about reuniting with Montgomery. And it's just it seems like they're ready to take that next step and not just be okay with what happened last year and really want to make a change. And they've done that already and still continuing to do that. So we'll switch gears here a little bit to the remaining free agents. So we just talked about Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. Blake Snell, a couple reports say he wants 9, 10 years, and some people say 5. So, I mean, this is a guy, he won the Cy Young twice. But in between that, he really hasn't been.
Those were bookends of mediocre seasons.
Exactly.
Or slightly above average seasons. How old is he?
I'm not sure. I think
late 20s?
I think 29, 30, somewhere around there.
I'm not giving him 9, 10 years.
No, especially because, like I said, he's had the 2 Cy Young seasons, and then other than that, it's been mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you say someone's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, you instantly think, oh, that's a great pitcher. I don't think he's a great pitcher. I think he's had 2 great seasons, Cy Young seasons. Mm-hmm. But again, they're bookends of, 4 years in between where he was mediocre, or slightly above average. There's some injuries in there.
Yeah.
You even look at his body type. Like he's, how durable is he going to be going forward? He's had some injuries, and now like you said, he's probably in his late 20s, somewhere around there. So as he ages, I mean, how durable is he going to be? So I would not commit to him for 9 or 10 years. That's way too much.
And then he won the Cy Young last year, but led the league in walks, the National League in walks. So is this really a guy?
How do you even win the Cy Young when you lead the National League in walks? Like, I have to go back and look at the stats, but somebody led the league in walks. Like, I'm not voting for them for Cy Young. I'm trying to remember who else was in the running last year.
I don't really think there was many guys in the running in the NL.
Strider.
Yeah, Strider potentially, but his ERA was high. Just had a lot of the strikeouts.
Leading the league in walks, and you get the Cy Young. It's kind of like a fake Cy Young. You know how much I love talking about fake wins and that sort of. But it's like a fraudulent Cy Young. I love to go back and look at his numbers when he won it, whatever year it was, 2018. But again, his resume is 2-time Cy Young Award winner. But that's over inflating how good a pitcher he actually is. We get other guys that works the other way, like Derek Jeter. Just to let Yankee fans know, he never won an MVP. But that that undersells what type of player he was. He was. I'll give him credit. Like he was an MVP level player at least a couple years in his career. Didn't win one, like you say. I guess it was 2006 was that year that he probably should have won it. Or, but you get what I'm saying. Like Snell's not worth 9 or 10 years. It's way too much.
I mean, apparently that group has shifted from the 9-year contract back down to maybe 5, 6, which I think is a little more reasonable. But with the Yankees' point of view, if he gets the 5 or 6 year deal, he'd probably be getting paid more than Garrett Cole, and I feel like that just can't happen if you're the Yankees, because this is a guy that you can't be paying him more than your certified ace. And is it really a guy that you want to invest in a stadium like Yankee Stadium? I mean, with all the walks, he's a fly ball pitcher. Is that really something you want to do in Yankee Stadium with that short porch?
Well, he's a lefty, so it helps to be a lefty in Yankee Stadium. But fly ball pitcher, I mean, even if he's a lefty, you get righties who go the opposite way. Like it's a short poke to right field. Yeah, I'm not giving him 9 or 10 years. Like I said, paying him more than Cole. I mean, the market's changed. Cole signed his contract 4 years ago. Now Cole's contract, he gets 5 more years.
I think
it's a 9-year deal, and he's pitched 4 years for the Yankees, 5th year. Are there any opt-outs in there?
I don't think so. It's all the way through.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 years. Was it 365, something like that? 265.
Yeah, I mean, look, the market's changed. So Cole signed his contract 4 years ago. So you're going to wind up paying these guys more just because of the change in the market. But I think the market needs to come back the other way. It's too much in favor of the players, and I like how the owners are saying, like, all right, we're not just going to give in and give these guys what they're asking for. It's too much. It's too much in the direction of the players, and I think for each league you have to find that balance. And baseball used to be the other way, and then it went towards the players, and now I just think it's too much towards the players. So I think the owners, I'm not saying they're right about everything with this stuff, but I think the pendulum has to come back towards the middle because there's way too much towards the players. I'm not giving Blake Snell 9, 10 years.
And then you have a guy like Jordan Montgomery who is almost, you look at him, it looks a lot like what Blake Snell does, but minus the walks. And he's had a couple good years without the Yankees. Or actually, what was it, 1 year without the Yankees, or 2. That was good. But is that a guy, he's looking for somewhere 3, 4 years. Is that a guy that you'd rather have on your team over Blake Snell for 8, 9 years?
I feel like Montgomery looks more appealing, I think, to like other teams, and I mean, I still don't really know for sure like where he's gonna go, but I mean, I could see him like re-signing with the Rangers or maybe even going to the Orioles like Corbin Burns did. That was a pretty big signing
we
for
didn't
him.
even talk about that. Yeah, Corbin Burns getting traded to the Orioles.
Or trade, yeah.
Well, Jordan Montgomery was the number 2 for the World Champions last year. I mean, you had Evaldi, and you had Montgomery. I know Scherzer's on the staff, but he's not. He's a shell of his former self and future Hall of Famer, first ballot. Yeah. But let's be honest about it. So Jordan Montgomery is the number 2, and he's a world champion. Like I think that goes a long way. Like he showed that he could do it on the biggest stage and really be a big factor with Texas winning their championship. So I'd much rather have Montgomery for, let's say, 4 years than Blake Snell for 9 or 10 years. I mean, I might rather have Montgomery and Snell over Snell if the years are equal. Like I'm not big on Blake Snell. I think the 2 Cy Youngs really inflates who he actually is. He's a good pitcher, but he's not a great pitcher. And even like body type, I think body type is important for pitchers. Like you look at Cole, like he's a bull. Yeah. Jordan Montgomery has that body type. Like Snell is just his body type. I think he's more prone to breaking down, and maybe a little bit that's unfair to him, but it is what it is. So I'm not big on Snell. It'd have to be the right deal. I'm not giving him 9 or 10 years, and I'm with you. Like I'm not giving him more money than Garrett Cole. I mean, maybe equal money because of the market, but I don't even know. Like again, I'm very weary of him. Where Montgomery, I really like, and again, it depends on the deal, but the guy's shown it on. He's shown on the big stage. Now Snell, I know he did show on the big stage with Tampa in 2020. They pulled him out of that game early, so to be fair about it, but yeah, I'm a big fan of Montgomery. I think he's a durable, bona fide, number 2, number 3 starting pitcher.
Yeah, and then a guy that's not a free agent, but a lot of talk about him getting moved to another team, Dylan Cease of the White Sox, another guy that he didn't debut till he was 27. So what do we really know? We don't really know much about him, but this is a guy that had a couple good years with the White Sox. Not very great last year, but a guy that could potentially make a big change on another team. The Yankees have talked about that too. So Colton, if you want to talk about him a little bit.
I mean, I personally don't watch like a lot of White Sox games, but I
think
know that
anybody does.
Oh,
I
I
kn-
watch every White Sox game.
I know that he definitely is like a valuable pitcher. I mean, he definitely could provide for like whatever team he's on, but like it's just kind of like random because I mean, like we said, we don't really watch him that much, so it's hard to determine like where he's gonna go off of little information. You have to like really start digging into like willy-nilly stats and just to really know where he might go or where he could possibly go like in the future.
And then lastly, we'll talk about a guy that's a bit interesting, Matt Chapman. I don't think the Blue Jays are going to re-sign him, which would make IKF their starting third baseman. But Chapman, he's a guy that had a really good start to last season, had a couple good seasons in Toronto and Oakland. So where do we see him fitting in? I mean, he's not signed to a team yet. Spring training has started, so do we see him fitting in with some team, or do we think it'll be back to the Blue Jays?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's tough because I'm trying to like think of teams that could like use a third baseman or someone like him, and I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Who's UC's third baseman?
Probably Mikey Pellegrino or Noah Sosa.
All right, we don't need Chapman then.
I don't know. Chapman's a guy that's interesting. I don't think you want to give him a big deal because I think he's to the backside of his career. But I don't know. I don't think the Blue Jays really want to have IKF as their starting third baseman. I don't think that's something you want. So we'll have to see what happens there.
He's a utility player,
Yeah,
IKF.
he needs to come off the bench. Needs to.
Yeah, play a few days a week. I mean, you can't have him playing every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, who's got a big hole at third base right now?
I mean, I've seen the Diamondbacks get talked about a little bit. They got.
Talk about a team that I expect to drop off this year.
There's no way they repeat what they did last year. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know where he fits in. People, all these delusional Yankee fans think he could fit there, but LeMahieu's got that spot. Actually, but LeMahieu did almost get hurt today. Took a bad hop right to.
Aren't you supposed
face.
to be paying attention in class?
Yeah, I am paying attention to class. I just have it on the side.
Were they playing at 1 o'clock on Yes?
They were playing at 1 o'clock. I guess. So yeah, I mean, anyone else, any other free agents that come to mind? We'll talk about Cody Bellinger going back to the Cubs.
3 years, $80 million.
I thought we'd see a bigger deal from him, but I guess not. And that's really it. I mean, obviously Corbin Burns to the Orioles is huge because that gives them that ace that they need with Kyle Bradish and a couple other guys.
Yeah.
That's a big move. Because they don't like to spend money. So making a trade like that, being able to get.
Yeah, they weren't doing anything in the offseason, and then it was a few weeks ago that they got burned. So that's big. I mean, they're going to be very good again, but I just look. They're very talented. They have the best farm system. All these young prospects who, guys that aren't prospects now. They've established themselves in the major leagues, but other guys that are coming up. So they'll be very good. I just pump the brakes on them. Like trust me, I got a lot wrong, but I said this before the postseason last year with them being an inexperienced team. Now they got experience, but they won 100 games last year. It was 101 games. It's tough to repeat that. Like, I wouldn't expect them. I'm not saying they have no chance of it, but I wouldn't expect them to be a 100-win team again. I think the odds are against that. They're probably low 90s to mid 90s. The Yankees are better. Toronto's talented, so they'll be in the mix. I don't expect them to do anything once the postseason comes if they make it. But they'll be in the mix. Tampa Bay will be in the mix. And even the Red Sox, they're not good, but they're not a terrible team. So you're in a very good division. So Orioles are very good. Some people, the Orioles, they're going to win the next 3 World Series. That's very good team, but let's pump the brakes a bit.
All right, well, a lot of baseball talk to come as the season is starting now. Spring training just underway, like we said.
Well, I thought today's show was just all baseball. I'm kidding. No, we got NBA coming up next.
All right, well, we'll take a short break here, and then we'll be back for NBA in just a few minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NBA segment of In the Vault. I'm here with Tony, Riley, Colton, and we're going to talk about how bad the dunk contest and the and All-Star Weekend as a whole. But I think the more the dunk contest and the game. So, Tony, I'm going to ask you first. What fix do you think you would make to the dunk contest? Let's start with that.
Well, it's hard to say. I feel like the only thing that a lot of people are saying about it is we've kind of seen everything shocking already. All the greatest dunks of all time have been done in the contest already. That's the only thing I could think of. But, I still think we see occasionally a few good ones,
But again, I don't think, they gave Jacob Toppin a 46. I'm not doing this because he's a Knicks player, but he did something that I don't think anybody has ever done before, and no one really cared. I know he might be, a Westchester Knicks / Knicks players on the rest of the bench. If they bring him up that day, he probably doesn't even play. But I just think that they've done some stuff that has never been done before. But I just don't think the judges or the people in the crowd is respected at all.
I mean, this is my take on the dunk contest. The first thing is we got the reigning 2-time dunk contest champ that's putting people in the seats. It's not even in the NBA. He's a G League player. So when the highlight of your dunk contest is a G League player, that just goes to show that the dunk contest, I think it's just, I don't know, I wouldn't be against just removing the dunk contest at this point. We've seen every dunk. All the original dunks have been done. It's the same dunks over and over. Star players don't do it. Jaylen Brown's the biggest star we've had in the dunk contest in a decade. And we're talking about Jaylen Brown. That's cool and all. And Jaylen Brown was dunking like he didn't even want to be there. No star player wants to do it. There's no incentive for winning it. The guy that's winning it and the star of it is a G League player. I think it just goes to show that the dunk contest, it's getting worse and worse every year. It's getting harder and harder to watch. I can't even name the last couple winners. The NBA likes to make splashes. They like to make big moves. I wouldn't be surprised if they just remove the dunk contest and say we're not doing it anymore. It was a really cool idea at first, but it's just not. It just flops now, and there's not enough stars doing it. And why would you do it? There's no incentive. There's no reason for you to do it, just other than say that you're the champ. All the guys that we want to see do it never will. And I just think the dunk contest, it might just be time to move on. Three-point contest is easy. You just shoot. That's not going to be an issue. A lot of guys still do it. A lot of stars still do the three-point contest. Steph, Halliburton, Jalen Brunson. But the dunk contest is miserable. And I think it's not as bad as the actual game. The actual game is the biggest problem. But the dunk contest is not far behind as being the absolute worst. It's hard to watch.
Do you think it's more of all good things have to come to an end with this dunk
Yeah,
contest?
that's what I think. I know the dunks are only you can only do so many dunks. There's only so many dunks that are humanly possible. We've seen every prop. We've seen every type of jump that you can do. And I think it's just we've done it for a while. It's been 40 years. We've seen it all. It was awesome at first, and now it's time to move on to something different. There's so many things that you could do that are fun that would put people in the seats. The dunk contest is just getting worse and worse. And I think you're just beating a dead horse with the dunk contest, and I think it's time to switch it up. And the NBA, they like to switch it up. They like to try new things. It wouldn't surprise me if they move on from the dunk contest and do something else.
People have said bringing in professional dunkers, but what we're looking at is it's the NBA All-Star Game. It's not just the All-Star Game. It's the NBA All-Star Game. If you want to see NBA stars, if you want to see even the role, people just want to see NBA players.
Exactly.
They don't want to see.
They don't want to see G League players.
As good as these dunk players are, they're in their own thing. You see those dunks online of just people who are signed to something because they can jump. Yes, it's great, but you're here to watch the NBA All-Star Game, and they're great. They're great. They're gonna make a living off of jumping, and they're very good at it. And they'll probably pull off some stuff that we haven't seen before. But man, we just don't come here to watch them. We come here to watch the LeBron. We come here to watch Steph. We come here to watch Anthony Edwards. We come here to watch those type of players.
I agree. You don't pay to watch the G League guy. Obi Toppin's brother, respect to him. I didn't even know he was in the league. Him, a G Leaguer, Jaylen Brown, he's there, but he's acting like he doesn't even want to be there. And Jaime Jaquez Jr., people aren't paying to watch those guys dunk. And if that's the contestants, I think just remove the dunk contest and do something different, something easier that the star players are going to want to do. But right now, it's a catastrophe, the dunk contest. It's not as bad as the actual game, and I know we're about to get to that, but the dunk contest is terrible. It is terrible.
So, Tony, let's talk about the game. I mean, what's your reaction to it before we say, fixing? What was your reaction to the game?
Well, obviously it's going to have some fun moments, dunking, funny moments. I wasn't a huge fan of how much they were fooling around, even if it was kind of funny sometimes. I mean, I think the most entertaining all-star moments are when, it's rivalries. You're seeing the best players in the world
the
a
best
lot of which
moments are
who
when,
aren't big fans of each other, they're going at it. you
remember
know?
like a few years ago when Clay and Steph went at it. Even those 1v1 battles will take. Like when
I agree.
when Clay and Steph were going at each other, when Kobe or LeBron, I know Kobe's not playing or not here anymore, but when you see those type of 1v1s of like Clay and Steph going back at it, we just want that. We don't want a lot, that much, but like just that. Like Clay and Steph, I know there's no like real big motive, but they play on the same team, and you know
I
just
agree.
having
I agree. And when it comes to the actual All-Star game, 400 points were scored. 400 points. I'd rather watch them play a game to 11, win by 2, where they actually try, than watch 400 points. They're not even, you're just running up and down the court scoring. Like, I wouldn't want to pay to watch that, and I wouldn't waste my time watching that either. It's just not enjoyable. There's no incentive either. And I understand the whole argument, like, why would you want to get hurt and risk your season and risk money playing a meaningless game? But, like, if this is what it's going to be, just remove the dunk contest. And I know the whole 1v1 tournament idea floats around. And if you were going to do a 1v1 tournament where you take the All-Stars, have them play 1v1, winner gets $100,000, or winner gets $100,000 donated to a charity of their choice, something to make them want to win.
But they're
I'd rather
playing for
watch that.
charity already, which makes no sense. And you know what makes no sense? I think this is just like this goes like kind of not even the bad, like goes like, oh, what you think, like what your heart kind of thinks is why you're playing for charity, but then you get paid money and now I don't want to go down in the stands to play defense for money to charity for the Boys and Girls Club, but I want to get down in the stands for myself. Like
Yeah.
it wouldn't have a good look.
And it's not even like it's not even just the defense. Everyone says there's no defense or defense. It's just like when you watch the game, they're just playing like they could care. Like this means nothing. Like I don't want to watch them. I don't care who's on the court. I don't care if it's the best players in the world, the worst players in the world. Them playing like they don't care. Like they don't want to be there. Like they're almost playing like this sucks. Like they have to be here. Like they'd rather not be here. It's just terrible. Like I'd rather there be no All-Star game than the All-Star game that we had this. I think this is the worst All-Star game we've ever had. Because even in the past, there's still been moments, like you said, like moments that we remember. Like this past All-Star game, I couldn't even watch after the second half. It was that bad. I remember a few years ago, there was one where they did like the target score of 157, and it was going to charity. And when the game
It still does. I mean, it's
and I don't remember
this
what it
year.
was about that one, but once it got to like 150, 149, it was getting close to the target score. Like they really started playing defense, and it was cool to see like the best players in the world actually try, and it was actually really exciting.
If we can get 6 minutes of a fourth quarter, that's all I'm asking for. If we can get 4 minutes of a fourth quarter, and give me 20%. You don't need to go. You don't need to go up and try to contest the dunk and then like have a chance to go down funny. You
Yeah.
don't have to do that, but at least get down the stands. You can get down the stands with 20%. Like
I agree. It's really bad, and this All-Star game was the worst that we've ever had. And I think they'll change something because I feel like this year had the most like outrage. Like people were the most upset this year that they were in the past. Like they put their foot down. Like this is it. So I think the NBA will do something.
well, because it happened last year. I think the same thing happened last year. Adam Silver was like, "This is never gonna happen again," and then it happened.
And
so
then it
it's
happened
like-
again. It's bad. And then we went back to the East and West before we had the captains. I thought the captains' idea was a cool idea. It was different. It was fun. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind the target score. I don't mind the charity. I don't mind any of the things they do. But the actual game is terrible. It's terrible. So if you're just gonna remove the game, and again, I still think 1v1 tournament would be cool. Let them do 1v1. Each 3 dribbles max. Game, king of the court. Winner gets donated to charity. Like I'd rather watch that than watch the game. The game itself is terrible.
I would rather watch Mac McClung and Montes Buzelis. I'm saying the name wrong because they actually cared. When you
Yeah,
watch
the
that
Rising
ride,
Stars.
they got down and they cared. I'd rather watch that than watch Luka and Jokic play
I
basketball
agree.
at the not like in a big.
Let me
big
just
host
ask you
but,
guys
like,
now,
in
if
the
you had to
All-Star
pick
game.
the best part of the weekend,
I like the Rising Stars. I'd have to go with the Rising Stars because you're seeing guys like Matas Buzelis, a projected top 3 pick. You haven't really seen him play. He plays in the G League. You get to see him play on national television against NBA competition. They're actually trying. It's young kids. That's pretty exciting.
I also
And-
think it's great to see that Mac. Like I know Mac McClung, you probably everybody probably thought the only thing you can do is dunk, which you get to the NBA for a reason. You have to do a lot of stuff well.
Yeah.
But at the highest level, I think he showed other I'm not just a dunker. I'm not just a dunker. I think that was great.
I
For him
agree.
to show that I'm not just a dunker. I can create. I can hit threes. I can.
And I liked how they did that whole Team G League, and they gave him a G League team, giving those guys that stand out in the G League a chance to make a name for them. I think that's cool, and I didn't mind that. And the 3-point contest is cool, but again, there's been so many three-point contests, it gets repetitive. Like, Steph won against Sabrina. That was cool. But the three-point contest, it's never that exciting. Like, it's not something that'll, like, the dunk contest used to be something you looked forward to. Like,
Yeah,
you were excited for the dunk contest. Now it's, like, completely irrelevant. No one cares. Three-point contest, whatever. Skills competition, I think is a waste. I never once have been excited for the skills competition. Like, I don't even watch it. Again, that's just such a waste. You see Anthony Edwards just shooting left-handed threes.
I do like.
It's a joke.
I do like for Indiana because I think they're one of the best basketball fans. Nothing about them.
Yeah,
There's
that
nothing
was
about
cool.
them. They're one of the best basketball fans. I mean, they have really. It's Indiana's Indiana, but they have great basketball fans over there. And just to have Pacers or the home team like when the Cavs just have their 3 players. I think that was great for the skills challenge. I know you probably didn't like it, but I just like I think they're doing the best they can with
I agree.
Scott. I think the skills challenge is I don't know compared to everything else. I think I really like it because you're just getting those top 1 picks. I mean, you're getting all those young guys, and that's the guys who are really gonna care.
And you saw the NFL, they dropped the actual Pro Bowl game and do a flag football. I never once have watched the flag football, and it's pretty boring. But at least they listened and they got rid of the game. I could see the NBA doing that where they get rid of the game and do something different, maybe like a 3-on-3 or like something. I could see that happening.
What would be the equivalent to that? Like
I don't know. Well,
doing
'cause,
wheelchair basketball.
Football is a lot more contact, so playing a meaningless football game is a lot different because like there's a really high chance of injury. Like you're not going to put your body on the line tackling somebody unless it's like means something. So I understand that aspect.
But I think also like twisting an ankle, going down funny. I mean, I know football, but like there's basketball, like straight up, like I think that going down funny, maybe twisting an ankle is pretty bad, especially if you're playing on Sunday and then you have a game on Thursday. Just thinking like that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty bad.
I understand that aspect, but as a fan, I wouldn't want to pay to go watch that.
No.
Personally, I don't care who it is. If it's Michael Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe, it doesn't matter to me because I wouldn't want to watch that. It's not worth it to me. But that's all for the All-Star game.
And I think there was also a thing like when people who went there, which I didn't go there. I'm not going to Indiana, but it's because it was so. No, I'm not gonna. Okay.
No, you tell them.
I'm not. No, because I like the people in Indiana. I don't want to really hurt the place because I like the people.
That's coming from a Knicks fan too, by the way. You
Yeah,
know,
but
they have that rivalry.
But no, but I think that like it was just like they were ready to host. That's what I feel like I was getting the feeling of like people didn't want, like if you watch like a random like Jaime Hawkins, he went to like the Rise of Stars game.
Yeah.
Next Instagram post is probably him in Cabo with his feet. Like he didn't want to stay there.
Yeah, no, they don't because at the end of the day, this is their like one big break of the year, and a lot of these players they don't want to play in this game. They want to go be with their families and be on vacation rather than being in Indiana playing this meaningless game.
Even the media people just did their media and they were gone. And that shouldn't happen. That's why something like in Indiana, it wasn't good with the Ubers. I mean that's everything. But they just weren't a good place to host. I just feel like you need something better to host because the media people were just doing the interviews and they were just booking it. They were going to like,
I agree.
They were going to a nice warm, Hawaii. I don't even think they would go all the way to Hawaii, but like Bahamas or something, man.
Yeah, nobody wanted to be there, and for anyone, nobody wants to be there. And that also game's a catastrophe. I think Adam Silver he'll try and do something different, but that's all for the All-Star game. I believe we have college basketball coming up next, so stay tuned. In a
Yeah,
few
it's
minutes.
about that time of the year.
College basketball.
4
March
more
Madness.
days in March.
Yep. So stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Vault. We just wrapped up our NBA segment, and now it's time for college basketball. We're approaching the end of February. We're going into March, and that's that time of the year where we start talking about March Madness, who's going to be where, what teams are at the top, what teams are at the bottom. A lot to talk about in college basketball as, the Big East tournament, ACC tournament, all the tournaments coming up, and then obviously the actual March Madness tournament. A lot to break down. It was a wild week of games, top teams dropping, upsets at the bottom. It was just a wild week. We saw UConn go down. Houston stays on top with a lot of big wins. Arizona go down. A lot to break down in the past week. I'm joined by Mr. Rainio to my right, and to my left I got Jack. A lot to talk about. So we're going to start predominantly with the new rankings that just came out, with Purdue actually being at the top, as well as Houston, and UConn dropping all the way till 3. That's kind of a big deal, as UConn has been at number 1 for a while. They won 14 in a row. They take that loss to Creighton, and now Houston's number 1 and Purdue's number 2. How do we feel about that? Are we still sold on Purdue being that top team? Are we sold on Houston being that top team? Do we still think UConn should be number 1? Mr. Rennie, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, UConn just lost. I get it when they do the rankings, the AP top 25. If you lost, they drop you. Purdue, they won their games this week. Houston won their games this week. I know Houston beat Baylor in overtime. They were up big, and then Baylor came back. I mean, I don't make a big deal either way, but I think UConn's the best team in the nation.
I agree.
Purdue, to me, it's not necessarily fair to them because I'm holding against them their recent history in the tournament. They got bounced by FDU last year, 16 seed over to 1 seed. They got bounced by St. Peter's 2 years ago in the Sweet 16 when St. Peter's went on the great run. So, I mean, it's not fair. Like, that's not this year.
Yeah.
But I still think Purdue, they have to prove it.
I agree.
I mean, Edey's there. He's their guy. UConn won the national championship last year. UConn's been rolling this year. So I look at UConn as the number 1 team in the nation.
I agree. I think UConn has everything to prove it. I think they have great wins. They're in a very competitive conference. They're defending champs. They're very complete top to bottom. But there is also the stigma around Purdue where they lost last year, 1 versus 16, and now that's kind of like their stigma, like they're frauds. I don't think that's fair to them. They're a new team this year. They're still playing very good basketball. They deserve to be at the top. But over UConn, I would particularly disagree. But I also do agree that it's not fair to just call them frauds because of what happened last year. It's a new year. They're still they're pretty much the same team.
I mean, if you look at the resumes, I'm looking at the net rankings. So you were talking about the AP top 25. But looking at the net rankings, which is the metrics, the analytics, I mean, their resumes. So in the net rankings, Houston is 1, Purdue is 2, UConn is 3. So if you look at Purdue, they're 25. What's that, Jack?
Mr. Analytics. Look at
Oh,
you.
I'm not Mr. Analytics. I mean, we could do a 5-hour show on the net rankings and Ken Pom and all the college basketball analytics and how awful it is, how ridiculous it is, which maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But looking at the net rankings, they got their resumes here. So they're both 25-3, 6-3 on the road. Neutral site, Purdue is 5-0, UConn's 4-0. Home, Purdue 14-0, UConn 15-0. Quad 1. So maybe we'll get into the metrics with the quadrants. You get the 4 quadrants in terms of wins and losses. So quad 1 records, they're both 9-3. Quad 2, Purdue 7-0, UConn 5-0. And then if you go quad 3, quad 4, they don't have any losses there. So no bad losses for each of those 2 teams. So the resumes are really similar. Again, I would still go with UConn as the number 1 team, but I get them dropping because they lost to Creighton last week. So recency bias, you lose, you get dropped.
I agree. And it just goes to show how anything can happen in college basketball because Creighton gets hot from 3. They beat UConn by 20. And then a few days later, that same Creighton team loses by 20 to an unranked St. John's team who's at the bottom of the Big East. So it just goes to show that anything can happen. Like tomorrow, Purdue can lose, and now they'll be number 7. Like the rankings, they fluctuate every day. So that UConn loss, if you watch the game, I mean, Creighton was red hot. They couldn't miss. And Creighton is a team to look out for. They have a legitimate big 3 of guys, a great big man with Kalkbrenner, a lot of experienced dudes like Shireman, Trey Alexander. That's a team out of the Big East that I would pick to go far in my bracket other than UConn.
Well, Creighton went to the Elite 8 last year, and they really blew that game. I'm trying to remember who their opponent was, but that was a game they gave away. But they're back at it again this year. Very good team. They are, Jack, we can go back to the net rankings. They are number 11, so they do very well in the metrics. They got 6 Quad 1 wins. Yeah, they're a very good team. I mean, they're a Final Four contender. Right now, they're in 4th in the Big East because of their loss yesterday.
Yeah.
So at the top of the Big East, you look at UConn. They're clearly the best team. Marquette's very good. They're in 2nd place right now. They blew out Xavier last night. Seton Hall is in 3rd place in the Big East.
The Big East, yeah.
Creighton is in 4th place. Seton Hall and Creighton played a triple overtime game going back a little over a month ago at Prudential Center. That was a tremendous game.
Yeah.
I think it was the college basketball game of the year, going triple overtime. Those two teams play this Wednesday night
That's gonna be a good
at
game.
Creighton, 9 o'clock game. So that's a big game. So yeah, Creighton. I think I wouldn't call them a great team, but they're a very good team, and I think they're definitely a contender to go to the Final Four.
I agree. And then the last team here at the top is Houston, who just, as you mentioned, did beat Baylor, and they beat number 6 Iowa State a little over a week ago in pretty dominant fashion. Do we think that they're the best contender to be over UConn? Do they deserve to be number 1? How do we feel about Houston? I mean, I know they're pretty battle-tested. They've been in the mix for a while. They were a number 1 seed last year, made it to the Elite 8 or something. Great head coach.
They've been in the mix for a while now.
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson is tremendous.
He's
Used
great,
to be at
yeah.
Oklahoma. Great college basketball coach.
If you want to
Um,
watch defense, watch Houston.
They play great.
If you
I
want,
will-
Like they're able to trap. This is X's and O's, but they're able to trap and then get back very well. I mean, they just know what to do when to blitz. They know how to guard a pick and roll. They know how to get out of it. Like they're really in sync with their rotations. They've shown that they've been there and done that. They
Yeah.
know where to go.
They're very experienced and they're very well coached. So I think for me, I put them over Purdue, especially they got back-to-back huge wins. And they beat the second best team in the Big 12 in Baylor. So I do really like Houston. If I was going to put any team over UConn, that's who I would put.
I take Houston over Purdue. And
I
again,
agree.
I'll admit some of it factors in the history, but I don't think you could say the history doesn't matter at all. Because again, Purdue, Edie's their guy, 7-4. Obviously a dominant force, but it's not like you could totally separate last year and even the year before from this year. I mean, you can't factor it into their resume in terms of seeding, but I think you could factor it in terms of where these teams are at. What you think their makeup is and where you see them going. So I just trust UConn more than I trust Purdue. I mean, UConn won the national championships last year. Purdue got bounced in the first round by a 16 seed.
Yeah.
Houston went to the Final Four 3 years ago, so there's a pedigree there.
I do agree.
I think the knock, and I would do this with Houston. What was the conference they used to be in?
All-American.
Like A-10 or something?
Whatever their former I can't think of it offhand. Was it Conference USA?
Something like that. It
Something
wasn't
like
Power
that, yeah.
5,
But now they're in the Big 12, so they're in the really good conference.
Yeah.
I can't stand Power 5 of college basketball. It's Power 6.
It is Power
The Big
6.
East
It
is
is
in
Power
there.
6,
It's
yeah.
Power 6, Super 6, whatever you want to call it.
You're right. It is
But
Power
Houston's a Big 12 team now, and they're 24-3. They got 7 Quad 1 wins. They've always been legit, but now for me, it's like, okay, you're in the Big 12. You're 24-3 in that conference. They're totally legit. I'm with you. I put them above Purdue. I still put UConn 1. I'm going to put Houston 2. But Houston's totally
I
legit.
agree. So we just mentioned all those teams at the top. But now as we're approaching March, as we know, there's going to be upsets. There's going to be that team in the Final Four that no one expected. So just kind of off the top of your head, what's a team that stands out to you that's going to be like a 9, 10, maybe 8 seed that you think can make a deep run, and regardless of conference? Just looking at the rankings off the top of your head, a team that impresses you that wouldn't surprise you if they made a deep run. Anyone got one off the top of their head?
Well, I got one, but I don't.
I think Baylor. I think Baylor was able to, I don't know what their rankings are. I don't know, but I think they're gonna make deeper than other people think because of they have Jacoby Walter, one of the best freshmen, All-American.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking for
Well, yeah.
Baylor right now is 16th in the metrics. They're a top
Yeah, so
16,
they're
so
gonna be a top.
they'll probably be around a 4 seed. So are you looking for a team that'll be a lower seed than that?
Yeah. So, the one that comes to mind for me every year is Michigan State. They're going to be at the bottom because they've greatly underperformed, but it's Tom Izzo, and they have a really elite guard, Tyson Walker. Very elite guard.
You're better with names than I am.
One of the best scorers in all college basketball. You pair him with Tom Izzo, they're going to be an 8 seed. that's one of those 8 or 9 seeds that I wouldn't want to play. Even though they've struggled this year, they've underperformed, I still wouldn't want to see them come March Madness time if I'm a top seed.
You always got to factor in Michigan State.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
last year they were the only Big Ten team to be in the Sweet 16, and I mean the Big Ten struggles in the tournament are very well known.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Tom Izzo, I mean they've made so many runs. He has one national championship, but he's been to how many Final Fours? Like 7
So
or 8.
many,
I
yeah.
mean they go deep almost all the time. So I think you always have to start with them. Could I
You want
be
to go deep, yeah.
Could I be? I gotta, honestly, like I gotta give them their props. My guys, I mean, they're
Yeah, no. They are.
look. There's other teams. There's other teams you could bring up, but this is a New Jersey based school here, so just gonna bring up a local team. Seton Hall, if they get in, which I think
They should.
I think they're going to get in. I mean, they have a little bit of work to do. But you look at them, and I'll go to the metrics right now. They're 61 in the net, which it's absurd. And you could go through this. If you really dissect the metrics and look at where teams are at, I mean, look at
it's
St. John's.
ridiculous.
St. John's is 44. They're 16 and 12. Seton Hall's 61. They're 18 and 9. And Seton Hall beat them twice.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it
ridiculous.
makes absolutely no sense.
Seton Hall's a top 35 team.
I mean, Xavier now is 64. They're 13 and 14. They're 3 spots behind Seton Hall.
Yeah, that's it.
They were ahead of Seton Hall before they got waxed by Marquette last night. So, I'm going to say, I'm just going to bring up Seton Hall. Like I know the most about them than any other team. I mean, I watch every game. I know the team real well. But if you watch them, they're a veteran team. You talk about a team that could go far in March in the NCAA tournament. You got a veteran team. They're thin. They do not have depth. They basically get almost nothing from their bench. They got a few guys off the bench that'll contribute sporadically, but they basically have no depth. They rely on their veteran starting lineup, but they have an absolute stud. They have a star, Kadari Richmond, 6'6" point
he's
guard, scorer. I mean, he's a All-American type player. Okay, so you got him. You got your star. He's a veteran. You got Alamir Dawes, who he could be he's streaky, but I think he's become less streaky. I mean, I don't know offhand what his points per game is, but he's a scorer for them. He's their best shooter. He can shoot it from the outside. They lack there, but they do have him from the outside. You got Dre Davis, who is one of their big 3. All those guys are veterans. Their whole starting lineup are seniors or graduate players. You got Bediako, their big guy, who's contributed a lot defensively, rebounds. He'll score a little bit, put backs, offensive rebounds. Like, he's a workhorse. And then you got Wusu, who transfers from St. John's. So the starting 5 is very good, and it's very experienced. And then you got Shaheen Holloway as the coach, who took St. Peter's to
Who's
the
great,
Elite 8.
in my opinion.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Seton Hall out there. They're a team, like, if they get in, which they should get in, we'll see where they get seeded. That's the type of team that says, they're a 10 seed. Like right now, one of the projections I saw has them as a 10. Some have as 11. So they're at 10-11 right now. Maybe they can move up a little bit, but if they stay around there, they're a team that fits the prototype of being able to make a run and at least get to the second weekend and get to the Sweet 16.
I agree. Like a team like that's experienced. They have a guy that can go get 25, 30 points. In my opinion, a great head coach. A very battle-tested team. They've beat UConn. They've battled with Marquette. They've beaten St. John's. They've beaten Creighton. Or took Creighton to triple overtime. Who won that game though? Creighton or Seton Hall?
Creighton won.
Creighton won, but still, like a triple overtime game. Like this is a battle-tested team in a very good conference. Experience with a star player and a great coach. That team has a formula to make it deep. So I actually really like the Seton Hall pick.
I legit think I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. Like if I didn't think Seton Hall was going to make the tournament or they were going to be a team that maybe gets in but not going to make a run, I totally admit it. But I really think if these type of conversations where you're looking for a sleeper that's a lower seed, a double-digit seed, I think once a tournament comes, they're going to be a team that a lot of people you'll see will say, hey, that's a sleeper team. I got them. I got them going to the Sweet 16. They're a team that can make a run. And I think Shaheen Holloway is a big part of that. I mean, with what he did with St. Peter's. But I think that's a factor. You got a coach who did that.
Who's done before,
I mean, it's the most historic run in the history of the tournament. he's coaching this veteran group. Early in the season, they looked terrible. They looked like it was going to be a terrible year, but they turned it up. They turned it on. They really took care of UConn at home in their first
That was a
Big
huge
East game.
win, yeah.
So they have that on their resume. They beat Marquette. They beat Providence on the road. So if you look at what they've done, again, they sit at 61 in the metrics, which I'd love for someone to explain to me how these algorithms work.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't
they
make no
are
sense.
they got 5 quad 1 wins. They got 5 road wins. And I saw a tweet last week. I know it's X now. It was like a handful of teams in the country that have that resume with 5 quad 1 wins and 5 road wins. It's like 10 teams, something like that. So they're in an exclusive group, in terms of quad 1 wins and road wins. So, they've shown that they beat UConn. So they've shown they could compete with and beat the best teams in the Big East, the best teams in the nation.
Yeah.
So I think they fit as a team that you could see going on a run.
And they have a chance to even further cement themselves if they were to manage to beat Creighton on the road, another road win, another top 25 win. They're right behind you in the Big East. That would be a huge win for Seton Hall. That would almost cement themselves into the tournament if they were to beat Creighton at Creighton. So that's another phenomenal opportunity for them. I think that's probably the last big game on their schedule prior to the Big East tournament.
They have Creighton on Wednesday.
And they play UConn
They
again?
have UConn on Sunday at noon. So they're back-to-back road games, Creighton and UConn.
If you're able to steal one.
I tell you, I don't feel good about the UConn game. Like, beating UConn twice in the season.
Yeah, that's hard.
You're
At
going
UConn.
there. UConn's going to want revenge.
Yeah.
They're playing at Gamble, which is on campus. So that place, the Hartford Civic Center, whatever it's called now, XL Center, that place goes crazy too. But they're on campus, the small on-campus arenas. That place is going to be rocking. They're going to be out for revenge. So I just don't think it lines up well. I expect them to be competitive. Like, it'll be disappointing if they get blown out, but that's a tough spot. But I tell you what, after losing to Creighton in triple overtime, I think Seton Hall kind of has that factor of, all right, we want to get revenge for what happened in that triple overtime game. Because that game was it showed a lot on Seton Hall's part, but it was a heartbreaker. So I like Seton Hall's chances going into that Creighton game. I give them a decent chance. I actually feel good about that game. I'll tell you a game that I'm worried about, and I think most Seton Hall fans are worried about. And again, this is part history, but it's also part what happened a couple weeks ago. Is Seton Hall, they host Villanova on March 6th. So that's next Wednesday. And Villanova just owns Seton Hall. They beat them 14 out of the last 16 times over the last 7 years. So I'm worried about that game. I think Seton Hall should beat them at home, but Villanova, they're a team,
not bad.
they're fighting to get in. They could be a team if they get in. Maybe they make a run. But I'm concerned about that game at home. I feel like it's a game Seton Hall should win. But they've had a lot of problems with Nova, and Nova absolutely blitzed them in Philadelphia. When was that game? That game was recently. So that was actually Super Bowl Sunday, so it was 2 weeks ago. So that game's concerning. And then they close the year at home against DePaul. DePaul's awful.
Yeah, they're terrible.
So
they're one of the worst teams in
that
all
one's
Division
a
One.
lock.
Yeah. But the last thing I want to get to in this segment is actually probably the biggest highlight of this week of college basketball. Had nothing to do with the game. It actually had to do with after the game. One of the biggest stars of college basketball, Kyle Filipowski, was hurt on the court storm. And I just think it's something worth mentioning as it's all over the news. I know you're probably you got a strong opinion on it, so we're just to highlight what happened. Wake Forest beats Duke. Big win for Wake Forest. Duke's highly ranked. That's obviously in-state win. Huge win. Wake Forest wastes no time running the court, and it almost looks like a fan just crashed into Kyle Filipowski, one of the biggest stars of college basketball, actually spraining his ankle. So this is big for multiple reasons. Number one being that Kyle Filipowski is not just a player. He's Duke's best player. Duke is a highly ranked team, and he's one of the best players in all the country. And secondly, him spraining his ankle due to a fan, that could affect Duke's season.
Have they said how long they expect
They
him to be out?
expect to be like a week or two. So now that's really affecting their season. And no, they're trying to win the ACC tournament. They're seeding. It's a big deal for a lot of reasons. And this has happened before, but now that it's happened to Duke and the best player on Duke with all the eyes on it, it's getting a lot of mainstream attention. So what should the NCAA do about the court storming, and what's your take on what happened?
I've seen people say, and it's totally legitimate, I've seen them say that it should be banned And that's what I'm inclined towards, is saying it should be banned because it's dangerous.
It is.
It's clearly a dangerous thing. But at the same time, for a college kid, big win, you're rushing the court. Like, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it a couple times myself. Like when I was in college at Seton Hall, I remember they beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was 4 in the nation. We rushed the court. We rushed the court when they beat Syracuse. Both of those were my freshman year. I mean, so it's exhilarating to run on the court and just have fun. So, like, it's a fun experience. So, like, I'm partial to that. Like, students saying, hey, like, you're taking away our excitement. But at the same time, I mean, somebody could get seriously hurt.
I agree.
So I'm inclined to saying, like, it should be stopped.
And it's really a crazy double-sided coin, because if you are a college student paying to go to a big college university where they got a great sports teams, I mean, court storming is a tradition. If I was paying to go to Wake Forest, I'd want to storm the court too if we beat Duke. But there's got to be regulations. You got to at least let the players get off the court. And if you watch the film, it's almost like that fan saw Filipowski there and intentionally he ran into him really hard. And
but then it's tough for the security people there. Like, I don't know how many security people they had, but even if you have a bunch of people there to say, hey, like, wait until they clear the court. Like, these students are just eager to get out there.
Yeah.
And I get it. They're excited. Huge win. You want to celebrate. So I don't know. Like, some people are saying, like, the student that made contact with Filipowski, like it was it was malicious.
Yeah, like, I don't really know how much I
I'd
agree.
have to watch the video again. Like, I don't know. And Filipowski said he thinks it was like. Didn't he say he thought it was something?
He thought it was, because, he got hit from multiple angles. They were running really hard. I mean, it was significant enough for him to sprain his ankle.
I get his frustration, too.
Yeah,
I
that
get
would be
Duke's
very
frustration.
frustration.
Like, I remember there was one player that was screaming at the fans. I totally get that reaction. Like, that's
your best player.
That's totally understandable. I understand him saying it after the game. Like, I took it personal. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can't read the mind of the student or students that ran into him, but the students are excited.
Yeah,
they're
I
rushing
agree.
the court. It's a tradition. It's been going on for a long time. Whether it's basketball, it's football. I mean, those football games.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
It's
football stadium's different than a basketball arena. That's what I'm saying.
but football, though, I mean, you got even more people on the field.
Both. And, these have happened in the past, and this isn't a new thing of, injuries happening from court storming, people colliding. But now that it happened to the best player on Duke, now it's, like, too significant for nothing not to happen. Like, something's got to happen. Someone's got to come out and say something. A change has to be made. Because now there's so much outrage, because now you're injuring one of the best players in all of college basketball, who's going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. Yeah. It's too big of a deal for nothing to happen. And I really do understand both sides as a fan and as a player. But if you are Filipowski, I mean, you have every right to be frustrated. I mean, you're trying to play for the ACC tournament. You're trying to play for the national championship, and you're getting hurt. You're hurting your team's chances because a fan ran into you. I mean, they had 5 guys surrounding him just to escort him off the court. I do understand both sides. Something's definitely going to happen. I know they're calling out for Wake Forest management to, get in trouble and people to get fired, and they're calling out the coach. Like, I mean, there's only so much the coach can do to prevent, 300 people from running on the court. And,
what is the coach?
Yeah, like, what's he supposed to do? Like, even Coach Shire said that, like, they coached a great game. They won the game. I'm not frustrated with anyone over there. Like,
how do you sanction Wake Forest? Like, this is something that is a tradition. It's allowed. So it's like, you're going to penalize Wake Forest? Like, everybody does it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Win a huge game. You upset one of the best teams in the nation. I mean, everybody storms the court.
Yeah,
so I mean, how are you going to penalize that? That to me doesn't make sense.
I agree. So you either got to remove it, or but the problem is that they don't do anything and they just, let it go. That's going to cause even more outrage. Like, because then what if this happens again? What if someone runs into Zach Edey, and then then it's going to get even more out of hand. So I feel like they got to take action.
I don't like that aspect of it where it's like, oh, everybody's paying attention to it because it was a star player. Now, I get it. It draws attention.
Yeah.
So I understand that part of it. But I think you need to look at it, and you got to look at it fairly. You got to look at it like you don't want anybody to get injured. It's not because a star got hurt or, it could be other stars. Like, it could be anybody getting hurt.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
It could be a player. It could be a coach. It could be the students rushing the court. I mean, you get trampled.
Oh, it could be
So
the player on the team that won.
It's just the thing is, if it was like a guy at the end of Duke's bench that got ran into, it just wouldn't gather as much mainstream
wouldn't.
attention.
I
and
think
it
it's
would be able to,
unfortunate, but that's
it would be
reality.
unfortunate, but it just wouldn't get enough attention, and they might be able to slide that under the rug because it wouldn't be all over the place.
It's one of those things where it's like you gotta wait. Like most things in life, it's you take a situation and you weigh the pros and the cons. You
Yeah.
weigh the costs and the benefits. So I look at it and say, well, there's pros and there's benefits to storming the court, and some people would say, oh, there's no benefits, it's so dangerous. But again, the excitement of it.
Yeah.
You're a college student. Your team just won a
yeah.
big game.
And it's a college thing.
Again, I did it a couple times at Seton Hall. We rushed. I mean,
It's awesome.
it was a rush. Like it was something you'll never forget. You know, I could still kind of envision in my mind like going on that court when they beat Pittsburgh. It was a double overtime game. They beat Syracuse. Like those are the powerhouses of the Big East. You know, Seton Hall had a good team that year, and it was thrilling. It's exhilarating. So like I look at that as a pro. So if you're weighing the pros and the cons, it's like, all right, that's really exciting. It's a tradition, but then obviously there's risk involved.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, do you think the risks outweigh the benefits? Do you think the cons outweigh the pros? Do you think it's the opposite? So I don't. It's, the more we talk about it, like
You can't. It's hard to make a decision.
I'm torn. Like I lean towards, okay, it's dangerous. Don't allow it anymore.
But then it's like, that's a huge aspect of college. That's like a college thing. You don't get that in the pros. You only get that in college when your team gets a big win, you're able to storm the court. And so many fans across the country would be outraged if they were just banned it and you're not allowed to storm the court anymore. And it just like, can you imagine a team getting a big win and then not storming the court? Like, can you imagine the March Madness game, no one runs on the court? Like,
Well, March Madness they don't, because those are neutral sites.
yeah, true. True.
And they don't have the conference tournaments because those are usually neutral sites, most of them. So it's a regular season.
It's a regular season, and it's usually when there's like a big upset win or like,
Yeah.
or just like a rival. They're not storming the court every win, but that game was just a perfect storm the court situation. I mean, Duke's number 10, Wake Forest is unranked. They knock off Duke at Wake Forest, and it's a shame, for Duke, and it's unfortunate.
And I'm just trying to think of like, again, for like even the security, like you put them in a tough spot. But I mean, if you lined up enough security, you just get your security personnel down there,
What I heard during
and you warn.
I think I heard like during the broadcast, security was telling everybody not rush the court. Like about 2 minutes left. If Wake Forest wins, do not rush the court. But you can't do it.
You're not gonna stop them.
How are you going to stop it? And then if they rush the court, like, are you going to hold everybody responsible who rushed the court? Like, you're going to give some sort of citation to everybody who rushed the court? Like, are you really going to do that?
No.
So how do you regulate that?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, like the kid who bumped into Filipowski. I'd have to see the video, but if you see clear evidence that this student went towards him, charged at him, and like it's clear he tried to hurt him, then that student should be responsible. But then everybody else, again, you're putting yourself at risk because you could get seriously hurt.
You can.
No doubt about it. But I don't know. Like I just hesitate. And I think for some people, they go on TV or wherever on social media, and they're so like adamant about it, and that's fine. Like if you're passionate about it's got to end, I get that take. But I think that's the easier take to have in today's society. I think in another time, it'd be the harder take because people are like, "What are you kidding? Like it's a tradition. Like, just do it responsibly. Whatever." Like there was the culture, the society was more willing to deal with the risks of something like that. Where I think now we've gone in the other direction.
I agree.
So it's, and again, I even admit, like, I lean towards saying stop it because somebody could get seriously hurt.
Yeah.
But I really do get both sides.
Yeah.
Not to sit the fence, but I don't think it's one of those, to me, it's not one of those clear-cut things like, absolutely, let's end this.
No, yeah. It's a seriously two-sided coin. And it really goes both ways. And if whatever decision you make, if you're the NCAA, I mean, it's a lose-lose. Either the fans are outraged, the players are outraged. You can't really win with whatever you do. But, I mean, Filipowski, the buzzer sounds before he even, like, can even look up, he's getting ran into. It was, like, immediate. Like, he didn't even have time to react. So, I mean, I'm sure there must be something they can do to at least let, the players get off the court. It only takes a few seconds for them to walk off. But, again, like, that sounds easy, but it's not. So
those students should start rushing. Like, that clock is ticking down, 5 seconds, and they're going.
They're ready.
If the game is decided, like, if it's a game where it goes right to the buzzer,
yeah.
then they're waiting, but even there, it was right to the buzzer. Then the players got to get off really quickly.
Yeah.
But that game there was a close game the
It
whole
was,
way.
yeah.
But then the last few seconds, you knew it was over. So they start rushing. I mean, what, like
Immediate.
5 seconds left in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
clock? You know, so yeah.
It's a really tough situation. It is.
I mean, at this point of it, like my first gut reaction was like, "This is so stupid. Like, this should never happen." But now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm taking a whole now I'm listening to everything. But like, and I heard everything on the internet. It kind of gives me like a little that was my gut reaction. Just, this is awful. This shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you have like this guy who came and got off the court.
And I'm trying to think, like, when you guys won the state championship last year,
Yeah.
or you won the sectional championship, like, it wasn't a court storming, but
No.
our fans came on the court after the game at some point.
Yeah. We actually but when we won the game, when the buzzer sounded, everyone stayed in the crowd, and we
Okay.
kind of
Yeah,
waited in the
it
crowd.
wasn't a rush,
It wasn't a rush. It was a lot different.
but it was, you were able to come on. And,
Yeah.
You know, I remember everybody was on the court afterwards for both of those
Yeah,
games,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Down
yeah.
in Lenape and then at Rutgers.
Yeah.
For the sectional state championships, like, you had that ability to celebrate
Yeah.
with the team. So it's like, it's not the same thing because nobody's in jeopardy. You
Yeah.
know, nobody's at risk of getting hurt in that scenario.
Yeah.
But like college basketball, like, the thing to do has always been to rush the court. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
It's a really tough situation. And it's gonna be interesting to see what they do, how they address it. And I really hope this doesn't happen again, and no one else gets hurt, and fans are still able to enjoy the privilege of being able to go to a school like that and enjoy a big win.
I'm just trying to think is another way that the students can celebrate with the players.
Like, it's like-
there really is something special
It's like
about
we
it.
It
just,
is, it
and
is.
especially like Duke, like we just beat Duke.
Yeah.
Like that's like the biggest win Wake Forest could have all year, and
just
you know.
beat
Yeah, and their program's coming back. Like, they used to be a very good program. They had Tim Duncan way back
Yep,
when.
yeah.
You know, but they've been, you know, a subpar program for a long time now,
Yeah.
for a number of years. But now the program's back. I mean, so they're all hyped up.
Yeah,
down
no, I completely understand it.
you know, it's an in-state rivalry, ACC. Like, I get it from the students' perspective. Like, they're,
Yeah.
you know, they you want them to have. I want them to have an opportunity to celebrate with the players, but I do also think you got to find a way to make it safer, because
agree.
it's not a situation where, like, oh, you know, you're always going to have risk, but this is a situation where someone could get really hurt. Now, this
Yeah.
is a significant injury.
It's not significant, but it's
It's significant.
It's
I mean,
significant.
it's not a
They didn't,
real
you know,
serious injury, but it's serious
but
enough.
it's serious enough to have
He's going to
effect.
miss time.
Yeah,
But
even
you
just
could
missing
have
one
something
game.
way more serious. You could have someone get trampled.
Yeah, and then that could.
And you
yeah.
know, you take that out,
You
like,
know
you
when
could have
you
a
get a
really, really bad situation.
Like,
And
it
I
turns
actually-
like a mosh.
Yeah, it's
I
almost
mean,
like a concert.
And
you know?
that's
Never ends well.
Because I've been like this type of stuff. Like, you're moshing, like you get stuck underneath, you could fall, and then you know. And
Yeah,
then,
it's dangerous.
Yeah, even just like the ankle, like you could really like.
It really is. I think Coach Shire had a great response. I think his post-game interview, he handled it very classy.
You can't take anything away from Wake Forest. You just
No,
can't.
yeah, it
You-
was a
you
great
just
win,
can't.
and they deserve to celebrate. But I think that's all I got for the segment that I wanted to cover. And anything else we wanted to cover? We
Yeah.
have obviously the game coming up soon. I think there might be one more segment after this.
Yeah, we got our music segment.
Music
we got
segment.
we got a debut of a
I
music
know.
segment with Tony and Harrison.
We've been keeping you waiting. It's supposed to be over 4:30.
Yeah, what time
Obviously,
is it?
We
We
were
just-
full 4:50.
We're going
so.
on and on, but this is the first time
Yeah,
talking
we're
college
talking
basketball.
college
We talked a
basketball.
little bit at the
No, we got to
beginning
talk
of the
more
year.
for sure.
Oh, a lot coming up now with
A lot
March
coming up with March,
Madness
yeah.
approaching, so we'll have a lot of college basketball.
For sure.
We'll break down the brackets once they come out.
For sure.
So this was fun, guys.
This was fun. Yeah, we'll be back on soon talking college basketball. There's so much more to come up. Anything can happen in a given week. Top team can go down. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, interesting to see what they do with the Filipowski situation. But thank you for everyone for tuning into NCAA segment. A lot of good college basketball coming up. We'll be back on soon covering the NCAA. Thank you, Mr. Ranio. Thank you, Jack. And we got a music segment coming up, so stay tuned.
All right, we're here with a very different segment, something that we've never had before. We're going to be talking some music. This is Tony Manusos. I'm joined by my brother Harrison.
How's it going?
They can't answer you. So, okay, we're going to do, right off the bat, we're going to get things started with this music section. I mean, we're musicians. We're in our own bands. We're going to talk about that stuff a lot. But I figured just to get things rolling right off the bat, we're going to give you the top 5 bands of all time right now. And I think as a bonus, we are going to include our favorite album by this band, just because
I
why
think
not?
We should alternate going until we
Yes.
get number 1.
Okay. So, all right. We're going to start with number 5 right now. I'm going Pink Floyd. Now, a lot of people have this band number 1, number 2. I love Floyd. I think they're great. I think each of them are some of the greatest in their respective instrument. Even Syd Barrett, I think, was very talented. Definitely different than anything they did after him. But I think he was really unique, and you got to give him credit for inspiring so much of their later work, which was great. And yeah, I mean, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, The Wall, even some of the stuff before Dark Side, Obscured by Clouds, Metal, Adam Heartmother, Saucer Full of Secrets. I mean, there's just so much different styles of music across all these albums, and it's just great stuff, man. It's just really good stuff, and they deserve to be in the top 5.
Right. I completely agree with you here. Pink Floyd, incredibly influential. We all know that. Very experimental.
Although you don't have Pink Floyd at your number 5,
yeah.
do you?
No. I mean, definitely an honorable mention, I think. But I think I had to switch it up. Oh, wait. I do. Right there.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, we'll get to that
Yeah,
later.
we'll get to that
What's your
later.
number 5 right
My
now?
number
Let's hear it.
5
Let's hear it.
Is Yes. I picked Yes. I got Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. I think the standout album is Fragile, to be honest with you. I think it's experimental, it's weird, it's cool. The bass is listen, I don't play
Chris
bass.
Squire. He's a really good bass player.
Incredible. Incredible. And even with my limited knowledge about the bass, even I know that it's extremely creative, extremely difficult. It takes real talent to pull something like that off.
I mean, listen, Yes is not in my top 5, but I got to give it to them. They are one of the greatest progressive rock bands. Some would say the greatest. John Anderson, the singer for all those great albums. My personal favorite is the Yes album, which I believe is the one right before the album Fragile. But even their debut album has some good stuff. Their second album, Time and a Word, it has some really cool stuff on it. Really shows what they had ahead of them. And then obviously the Yes album, Fragile, what's it? Tales from the Topographic Oceans, that whole thing. Close to the Edge, of course. I mean, what a great run of albums that they had in the late 60s, early to mid 70s. Really, really good stuff. I love that pick and being in the top 5. I think that's great. All right, so I'm gonna get to my number 4 now. I went with Led Zeppelin. Zeppelin, they're probably my second favorite band of all time. I was so close to putting them at 3 or even 2, and they just didn't last long enough to really get over the edge of the other bands that I'm going to get to. But Zeppelin. I mean, listen, right out the gate, Led Zeppelin 1. I mean, masterpiece rock album. Led Zeppelin 2. I mean, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but I mean, that is like a quintessential rock album. Led Zeppelin 3, start changing things up, start getting acoustic, experimental. They're already established by that point. Led Zeppelin 4, right? Led Zeppelin 4, masterpiece. Everybody knows it. I mean, you got what's after Zeppelin 4? Physical Graffiti comes after. What's it? House of the Holy. Yes, there you go. I think he got it. House of the Holy, great stuff. Physical Graffiti. Even Presence and In Through the Outdoor, their last 2, fantastic stuff. And, I mean, listen, they had a sound like no other. They were pioneers of just what we know as rock music to this day. And each of them, some of the greatest, if not the greatest in their instrument. That's a common theme with these bands. But, I mean, Led Zeppelin has a very strong case for that. And, yeah, I'm going to get to them in a little bit, so I'm just going to stop it there for Zeppelin, number 4.
I mean, I think you completely hit the nail on the head right there. I think you got the bullseye. And we'll see.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see Led Zeppelin later. I have him in my list up there. So we'll definitely come back to it. We'll talk about it more. But at my number 4 spot, I put The Who. I think, like we've been saying, one of the greatest in their respective instruments. You know, you got some really heavy stuff for the time.
Keith Moon.
Keith Moon, of course, with the crazy drum set. You know, him and Neil Peart both rock with so many drums. It's really unbelievable to watch too, even. And the tuning, I don't even want to think about the tuning all those drums. But I think that The Who really shone. You know, I think Tommy, great album. I think that Who Are You, great album. And I can keep going. Who's Next?
Right.
They don't really seem to miss. I guess I could put it. They don't really miss.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Who, Pete Townsend, well, let me just say real quick, it's a little bit off topic, but, you know, it involves the Who. They played here at Union Catholic in, I believe, 1968. And there's some really cool pictures and footage and stuff, and if you look it up online, you'll be able to see it. Really awesome that the Who were able to play here. But, yeah, Pete Townsend, genius songwriter, genius guitar player, very unique style, John Entwistle, maybe the greatest bassist of all time. Roger Daltrey, I mean, he was able to keep that voice. I mean, they're still going now. You know, there's not many bands that sound like them, and especially ones that sound like them that are still going to this day. It's honestly great to see. Tommy, they're releasing as a stage production nowadays. And, yeah, Quadrophenia, Who's Next? The Who by Numbers, The Who Sell Out, My Generation, their first album. I mean, they're all good stuff. I mean, everything from their first album to probably, I mean, you could say some of their 80s stuff isn't too good, or isn't the best. I mean, nothing bad, though. Nothing bad at all. Still making albums, most recently, I believe, 2019, 2020. And The Who, yeah, great stuff. I should have put them in my top 5, but they were just barely out of it for me.
I think, well, my favorite album by them, I put as Live at Leeds.
Oh, yeah.
Completely electric, completely, you know, what's the word? There's just so much fire.
The firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the drums are it's like thunder.
Heavy stuff.
Right? The guitar, just overall.
I mean, you could say they arguably helped the shaping of the genre of heavy metal with that album.
Absolutely.
I mean, all those metal drummers listen to guys like Keith Moon play drums and just... yeah, they were big fans of it. So all right, okay. The Who, number 4 for Harrison. So I'm going to go to my number 3. So I had Pink Floyd at 5, Zeppelin at 4, and with number 3, I'm going to go with the band Queen. Now, let me just say, Queen is not in my maybe even 10 favorite bands, but you got to give it to them. The longevity that they had was, I mean, amazing. I mean, you look at the beginning of their career, right? Had a sound like nobody else. I mean, absolute freaks in the studio were Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, that's all I got to say, really. Let's be honest here. I mean, Sheer Heart Attack, great album. Their first album, great stuff.
Very heavy.
Very heavy.
Very heavy.
Night at the Opera, Day of the Races. What else we got? Jazz. Good album. The Game. Some 80s stuff. They changed their sound a bunch. They played at Live Aid. They've sold hundreds of millions of albums. To this day, they're still popular. They had that movie that was huge. I mean, Queen right now, I think if you look on Spotify, I believe they're in the top 50 or around the top 50 most listened to artists in the world, right? Freddie Mercury died in 1991, right? Queen, they're an old band now, over 50 years old. To this day, they're still amongst the top 50 to 100 most listened to artists, not band, artists in the world. That's just mind-blowing to me. So if that doesn't show how good they are, their longevity as a band,
they stood the test of time.
They really did.
Stood the test of
they
time.
really did. I mean, arguably better than, I mean, if you look at the numbers, right, any other band ever right now. I mean, just at this point in time, that's what it's looking like. So Queen, number 3, great stuff.
I think my turn for number 3.
Yep.
We're taking it back to where you had it for Pink Floyd,
Oh yeah.
but instead of Animals, the album you chose, I put Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think that's their standout record. I think that people consider it the greatest album of all time. I would even say that the second side is perfect. It's a perfect side. I think the first one, that there's a few filler songs here and there. We got Time. The first song, I think, what do you call it?
Breathe in the Air is the first song that it's on the run.
Yeah,
with
on the run.
the fast
yeah.
keyboard.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect record, to be honest with you.
Hard to argue with that. I mean, one of the most famous album covers, one of the most famous albums, period. Any genre. So Pink Floyd, number 3 for Harrison. All right, number 2, here we go. The runner-up, the second greatest band of all time, in my opinion, we got the Rolling Stones. I mean,
Not much to say. They're iconic logos, iconic songs.
their logo, the songs,
iconic members, moves like Jagger.
still going.
You know,
okay,
yeah, that song.
okay.
You know, listen, let me tell you, if he wasn't such an icon, you know, I doubt he'd name
the song would have
like
been made.
that.
All right, yeah,
You know?
okay, fair enough. That's a
So-
whole different thing. But
You know.
you're not wrong. I mean, listen, Mick Jagger, I mean, he is like the quintessential frontman. I guess so is Freddie Mercury and a lot of these other guys. But I mean, Mick Jagger really started it all with this whole thing. Keith Richards, I mean, still going somehow and playing at a high level as he always has. Ronnie Wood, killer guitarist. Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, Mick Taylor, Brian Jones. I mean, these are all legendary musicians that have been in the same band. And I mean, listen, at their peak in the 60s and 70s, I mean, they were like the second best selling, second most popular band of all time. And you could argue that they still are. I mean, you know, any record that they haven't already broken, they're probably number 2 in that ranking for in that record. I mean, you know, you look at the albums, right? I mean, the 60s, Out of Our Heads, Aftermath, you know, some 60s pop rock band type stuff, but a little bit more mature, you could argue, than some of the other stuff at the time. They didn't blend in with everybody else. There was something different about that band with their blues influence. You got Between the Buttons, Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed. I mean, this is where it starts to get real legendary. I mean,
Right.
Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, which, I mean, for my money, is one of the greatest albums of all time. Any genre,
Right.
Exile on Main Street. I mean,
And let me tell you
great
something.
stuff.
By no means am I big on the Rolling Stones. By no means. You know, I can be pretty critical towards them at times, but I can respect the influence. They
course.
spearheaded the British invasion completely. It's them and the Beatles. They didn't make it to my top 5, but anyone that does put it in their top 5, listen, I understand it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not in my eyes.
No,
I think.
I mean,
I'd
we're
encourage
going
you
to
to do
see
that.
them, actually, the two of us, with a few of our friends this coming May. They're coming to MetLife Stadium, which is going to be cool. And, you know, maybe we'll even talk about that on a later show when that does end up happening. And, I mean, listen, they are the rock band. They are the quintessential rock band.
Right.
And, you know, they just got that specialness about them. Let's go to your number 2 now.
Right. You know, our lists have a lot in common. I put, as we mentioned earlier, Led Zeppelin. So we're not going to go too in depth. We already did
We
that.
already did.
But I think Led Zeppelin, amazing musicians, as stated. John Bonham, I think, is the greatest drummer of all time, best drummer of all time.
No question.
I think Jimmy Page is top maybe 2, top 3 guitar player of all time. I think
He's up there.
John Paul Jones, I think he's the greatest bass player of all time.
Wow.
I think it'd be
What
rude.
about Robert Plant?
I'd probably put him top 5
At his prime,
at his prime.
in his prime, he was as good as any other lead singer.
I think what really brought him down was the later years and the trying to recover, you know, Live Aid. I don't even want to mention it. Live Aid.
Don't even
Yeah.
talk
I-
about
I-
that.
I
Oh,
figured-
boy.
I figured
Led
that
Zeppelin at
happened.
Live Aid. Do not look it up. Look up Queen at Live Aid. Do not look up
Yes.
Zeppelin at Live
Yeah.
Aid. Or The Who. The Who did good at Live Aid too.
There's
Um,
U2. U2 did good.
U2. Yeah, I mean, all these are some of the greatest bands ever. That was a big show. But do not look up Led Zeppelin at Live Aid, whatever you do.
it was a bit rough. But
Right, right.
not their finest hour. But yeah, I mean, no, it's everything you said pretty valid to me. And I mean, the two of us both have the same number one. Most people have this as their number one. I mean, it's probably the closest thing to fact on this entire list. I
Right,
mean,
right.
listen, the Beatles, number one,
Yeah.
no question, no contest. I mean, listen, any band that came after them, whether it was on purpose or not, were influenced by these guys.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
individually, very creative, genius stuff between the four of them. I mean,
Greatest songwriters of all
the
time.
greatest songwriting team ever, Lennon McCartney. George Harrison became a songwriting genius on his own. Ringo, I mean, as solid as any drummer can get. I mean,
Now I've heard people consider him the greatest drummer of all time. I don't know. As a drummer myself, I wouldn't consider that to be correct. But
Right.
what I can say is he's the perfect drummer. He doesn't overplay it. You know, he's not flashy. He sticks to his job. He has fun with it when he has to be. You know, Come Together. I'll use that as an example because that's on my favorite album.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Come Together, the opener for Abbey Road. It's so unique. It's almost like a piano playing notes. You know, not so much percussion or drums. It gives so much flavor. Can you
of
say
course,
that? So much
yeah. I
flavor
mean,
to
it
the
makes
song.
I think his drum parts kind of set it apart even more from any other music. I mean,
Right.
you know, he played the drums for the song that drum part was meant for. I mean, just you can't change a Ringo drum part if you're covering a Beatles song. You can't because it's too perfect for the song, and that's
Right.
everything you should want in a drummer. And you could say the same for George Harrison with his guitar parts. I mean, he just knew exactly what to do. Lennon McCartney, I mean, Paul and John both, I mean, combined have how many number one hits? Separate have how many number one hits? It's ridiculous. It's almost unfair how good of a band they were.
It's a super group.
Super group. I mean, it's just when it comes down to things, that's what it is. You know, the Beatles. They're the one.
And I think not even their later stuff with the drumming, with Ringo's drumming, but their early stuff with Ticket to Ride, that drum part is so
Creative.
creative. It could have been simplified to a 4/4. You know, everybody does it. Everybody's heard it before. But he took the liberty of playing it so uniquely,
Right.
so reminiscent of himself rather than just any old drums.
I mean, yeah, that's Ringo, that's the Beatles. I mean, you know, there's nothing you can say about them that hasn't already been said.
Right.
I can't rave about them enough. I mean, they are the band of all bands, and for my money, it's staying like that for the foreseeable future. I mean, doesn't get better than that. I mean, pick any album by them, preferably Revolver, Rubber Soul Revolver, Lonely
Sgt.
Hearts
Pepper,
Club
Magic-
Band, yeah.
Magic
White
Mystery
Album,
Tour.
Magical Mystery Tour, Abbey Road, Let It Be is pretty good. You know, there's really no misses in their discography. I mean, they're as good as any band could ever get. And so I believe that's going to wrap up our top 5 bands right now. And so that's our first section in this new music program that we have for broadcasting. So that was pretty fun. And now we're going to talk about the best pure rock album of all time. Or the one that, if you had to explain the genre to anybody who's never heard about it, what would you show them as just a pure rock album? I want to hear what you say, Harrison, about this.
I think an essential. I know an essential for this category would easily be Jimi Hendrix. And there's so many options for Jimi Hendrix, but the one I had to go with, Are You Experienced? Because let me tell you, 1967, things weren't all that heavy. So when Jimmy comes out with Manic Depression,
oh, yeah.
ripping through the guitar, at that moment, I feel a new era. I would say that
You hear the sounds of
Kick-started.
the future at the time. These were the sounds.
Yes.
Jimi Hendrix's guitar and his band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience they were the new wave of music at the time. They made an impact like no other, and you can, like you said, Harrison, you can hear it in their music. I mean, these guys were the leaders of a musical revolution, and just, you could even say a revolution in general. I mean, times were changing, and they were bringing the times, you know, they were the some of the
spearhead.
leaders.
The
Yeah, the
spearhead.
spearhead. They were a huge part of that, and especially him in particular.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's a good pick. Would that be your number one for rock albums?
Listen, it's not my favorite. Okay.
Okay.
But I would probably say it's for lack of a better word. Maybe this is the right word, but it's such an iconic album with a lot of songs that we all know.
Guitar heavy,
Guitar heavy,
drum heavy, bass, everything
heavy,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah.
as heavy as it got. 1967. You know that's
true.
usually not a thing that they did.
No, it's a good point.
You know, Jimi Hendrix was the influence
Yeah.
between how many amazing guitarists?
Well, after him, pretty much every guitar.
Right.
And it's kind of like the Beatles with bands. For Jimi Hendrix and guitar players, it's like whether it's, you know it or not, you're influenced by him
Right.
in some way. You're directly influenced. Okay, so for my pick as maybe the best pure rock album of all time, if I was going to somebody and they were asking me what is the rock album, what is the album that defines the genre, three things actually, came to mind, right? Van Halen 1, the debut album by Van Halen. I mean, these guys come out firing on all cylinders, you know, with an attitude that you want in a new band with a debut album, heavy stuff, legendary riffs, gave the world a new guitar hero in Eddie Van Halen, a new, I guess you could say, frontman hero in David Lee Roth, and just the whole band is just electric, really high energy, just pure rock music, and I mean, it's an essential. It is an essential, if not the essential. The other one I thought of was Back in Black by AC/DC. So, okay, the AC/DC, a lot of people criticize, you know, they don't go too many places. They don't go really slow ever in any song. But, you know, no album, I guess, really explains what they are as a band better than Back in Black. I mean, that is their biggest statement. I want to know what you think about that.
I think Back in Black probably an essential song. Back in Black.
Oh, yeah. Well, the song,
You
too,
know,
of course.
Popular in a lot of media. You hear it in movies all the time. And I
Too
think,
much.
I think rightfully so, to be honest with you. I think
Okay.
rightfully so. I think the words are simple. I think
The
it-
riffs are simple.
the riffs are simple, easy to digest.
It's a good way of putting it.
I think that both Van Halen and AC/DC are really safe options. And that's not discrediting them. Safe options meaning no one can really disagree because it's such a well-rounded, you know, in terms of
Of what they're trying
the
to go
genre,
for.
yeah.
What they're trying to go for.
now you can also say the Scorpions. Same with that easy to digest,
Okay.
simple riffs. You know,
Well,
what do you have to say about that?
this is what I have to say about that. I think both of those albums, Van Halen 1 and Back in Black, are as essential as it gets, but I don't think there's any better rock album ever made than Led Zeppelin 4. It's not even my favorite Zeppelin album, but Led Zeppelin 4 goes everywhere. Blues rock, you got it. Acoustic folk music, they got it. Weird time signatures, you got it. I mean, Stairway to Heaven, there's no point in even saying anything about that song
It's been
because
said. It's
it
been
is
said millions of
Stairway to
times.
Heaven is
Yeah.
the rock song of all rock songs. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody too, but I mean, come on, Stairway to Heaven.
How
you know?
long was it voted number one on 104.3's Rock and
Forever,
Roll? Yeah.
forever. I mean,
Might as
you know,
well be, yeah.
that is like, just like I said before, the rock song for the rock album of arguably the rock band of all time.
Right.
I mean, there's no misses on that. When the Levee Breaks, killer. What else we got? Black Dog, you know, legendary rock song. I mean, there's nothing to complain about on Led Zeppelin 4. Nothing. And that's what I think about it. I think it is the
Absolutely.
rock album of all time. I want to know what you think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, if I can have 3, I definitely put it in my top 3, but I only chose the one.
Okay.
So, listen, I think we've talked about Zeppelin. This is our 3rd time already.
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say anything new here. Greatest in their respective instruments. Talked about Bonham. Talked about Plant. Talked about Page. Talked about John Paul Jones.
Right.
It's tough to say anything, against that. If they're not the perfect band, then I don't know who is.
They were definitely the perfect band for each other. They're the perfect players for each other. And yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get into rock music, if you've never really listened to it, I mean, that's probably my favorite genre. I think you could say the same about you. I don't only listen to it, of course, but I mean, I think a lot of my favorite stuff is in that category and in those bands that we were just talking about in our top 5 list. And I mean, I've listened to a lot, and Led Zeppelin 4. That is the rock album. You're not going to find anything much better than that,
Right.
in my opinion.
Listen, we have a couple more minutes here. Let's talk about maybe some more honorable mentions.
Okay.
One that I would say is 2112 with Rush.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
I think a 20-minute consistent song that flows almost like the medley in Abbey Road. It's no easy thing to do, really. Listen, I've probably said this about 3 different bands already, but Neil Peart, one of the greatest drummers of all time. Top 2 or 3. We got, what's his name? Geddy Lee.
Geddy Lee, yeah.
Amazing frontman. His voice, so unique. I would almost.
And he's playing bass while doing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Difficult bass,
not
difficult
easy
vocals,
bass,
and he's
right.
killing it. Yeah, I
And-
know. Alex Lifeson on guitar.
Right. I think those 3 guys putting together such a song like that is shocking. I think them and Yes are the 2 progressive rock bands. To really help you understand that whole thing.
Well, let me throw another one at you. How about Black Sabbath, right? Master of Reality. I mean, that's my personal favorite by them. Master of Reality. You got Paranoid. You got the debut album, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I mean, these guys invented metal. Maybe that would be more, honestly, if you're trying to get into metal music. I mean, it's as early as that genre gets. But I mean, it's some of the best. I think it's some of the best. And I'm not the only one either that thinks that. So I mean, Master of Reality.
Absolutely, they are one of the best.
Another one, Deep Purple, Machine Head. That album is, to me, so re-listenable. I mean, I haven't even gotten tired of it, and I can listen to it as many times, and I'll never be sick of it. Just killer stuff. I mean, that's rock music for you, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, The Who, Queen, Stones, Beatles. Yes. That's prog stuff. You got Genesis, King Crimson. There's a lot to cover, and I'll tell you, we're going to get to a lot of these in the upcoming music shows. For the first one, we just wanted to touch on 2 pretty big topics, 2 very interesting topics. And, it's been done before, but, not in the same way we've done it, for better or for worse. So, yeah, that's
Well said.
That's going to end our first music broadcast. I had a lot of fun doing it, and we hope to include more stuff as we go on, bring more people on, more lists, rankings, tons of artists, genres, and just stay tuned because we got a lot coming, all right? So stay tuned for more.